What we have seen so far in this book is a confrontation between the past and the present, the people that these four were then and the people that they are now. And how they all define themselves now ties a great deal back to the Rocinante. And this is altogether fitting. The name chosen for the ship by Holden is taken from Don Quixote, named after the title character's horse. It's easy to see why, as Don Quixote and his famous delusion to charge at a windmill thinking that they are actually giants has led to our word quixotic, meaning idealistic, unrealistic, impractical, a reference to James Holden and his tendency to hold to high-minded ideals when the situation probably calls for something else. Yet what actually makes all of those who ride that titanium horse through space Don Quixotes themselves isn't that aspect of it. It's what you've discovered about them here. Don Quixote isn't just about a funny man with an unhealthy view of renewable energy. Don Quixote was a man who, at 50 years of age, fairly old for his time, goes mad, and yet in that madness is liberation. Don Quixote names himself, names his horse, names the noble damsel whose honor that he fights for, and he heads out into the world as a knight-errant to win glory and the love of his maiden. Don Quixote is the story of self-invention. So you can see how that applies to all of them. They are not those people anymore. They have chosen to become someone else now, and have made their peace with all of that past in their past that was tied to a person who died a long time ago, and left these four knights here to carry on. Bobby, too, is now along for the ride, now also a member of the Rocinante crew, and also one who has reinvented herself. The purpose of Naomi's trip out that airlock was to get to the Chetsmoka, to do something about the threat that it represents. She has obviously suffered serious damage in the process, but eventually she's able to modify the message so that it no longer says that she doesn't have control, even though that's actually true. Doing so calls attention to the message enough to realize the message has been doctored, although Alex and Holden are still left wondering what to do. Doctored implies that this is a trap, but the ship is not acting like something trying to lure you into a false sense of security. So Naomi heads out and uses the Belter gestures the way that they had been originally created, to communicate with body language. Danger, do not approach, explosion hazard, and to make clear that she's low on air. Fortunately, the Razorback crew understand what she means, and thanks to some clever thinking, Bobby is able to catch Naomi and give her a new air bottle before she's picked up by the Razorback for eventual reunions with Holden and Alex. The only one whose fate isn't known to them yet is Amos, although he has arrived safely on Luna, where he has a confrontation with Christian Avasarala. With the Secretary General dead, Avasarala is the de facto head of the UN government, and since they're under martial law right now, she says that insistence that security can't enter this ship without a warrant isn't going to fly with her. But when Amos explains that going inside will reveal something that will force her to take action, and so he'll be forced to take action, well, that will only end in tears. And with logic like that, there is no way Avasarala can refuse him. She has clearly pieced together what is going on here, and just says to make sure that you know who gets off this moon without being noticed and causing trouble. Yes, even Clarissa Mao is given the chance to reinvent herself. Of course, the person at the center of self-invention is not a viewpoint character, but rather someone who touched them all. Marco Inaros. He is trying to stop being the loony militant wing of the belt and instead become its chess master breaker of chains admiral. Marco is all about his image. But in a private meeting with the crew of the Rocinante, Naomi tells Avasarala that Marco is mostly just a failure if you think about it. He couldn't kill Fred, couldn't kill the Martian Prime Minister, couldn't take over Tycho Station, he couldn't even hold on to his ex-girlfriend. He dropped rocks on Earth and managed the death of the General Secretary as collateral damage, and yet even still, another person has stepped right into her place and continued to run the planet. The only other success, stealing the proto-molecule, she's virtually certain that he had nothing to do with. It must have been someone else's operation for one simple fact. He is so self-obsessed, there's no way he could resist bragging about it. Avasarala agrees to blanket immunity for the crew for anything unrelated to the attack in exchange for any information that might be of help in all of this. Avasarala is doing her best to not just see them through this disaster, but to deflate the power of Marco Inaros. When asked about the casualties on the news, Avasarala corrects that they are not casualties, they are murder victims, that this attack on Earth was not an act of war, it's a crime, and that Marco Inaros is not an admiral just because he put on a uniform and has turned the Belter greeting into a military salute. She is not accepting his self-invention. She points out to everyone that no one elected Marco Inaros, no one appointed him. He's just a psychopath who killed a lot of people and is piloting stolen warships while preening about in his stupid costume. And these people, she insists, they're not getting a war. The only thing they're going to get is a fair trial for their criminal behavior. Much like I said that Marco would deflate Philip in the future by treating him like a child, Avasarala is flat out calling Marco a monstrous little boy and not even showing the respect of acting like he's her enemy. This is, of course, doubly insulting, as it not only plays into the traditional view of Earth having no respect for the Belt, but disregards the blow that Marco claims to have struck on their behalf. But still, much like how Marco's speech is for the outer planets, Avasarala's is for the inners. She's telling Earth and Mars that the so-called Free Navy is not an enemy that they will need to fight and vanquish, even if it might be a one-sided one, but just another band of jumped-up criminals who did the unthinkable. And most importantly, criminals get a trial, and a trial means justice, which is what she's also telling everyone who is suffering because of this. The people responsible for your pain are going to be found and punished. Likewise, Monica Stewart is styling the situation as an external force coming in the form of the Free Navy rather than as a sign of the OPA being divided, likening it to the Martian elements that betrayed their government as not really an internal power struggle so much as basic opportunism. She also points out that targets of Free Navy activity included Tycho Station, a clearly Belter construct and under OPA control, to consider it a strike against the OPA by a rogue power rather than an internal coup. This is a strictly semantic argument, but its purpose is similar, to split the Free Navy off from the OPA in the minds of the whole solar system, Belters and Inners alike. While its ability to convince Belters of anything is going to be limited, it's more of an acknowledgement to those Belters who don't support the Free Navy or what they did, to say, we don't blame you for the sins of others who falsely claim to act in your name. It also allows the ability to coordinate with Fred Johnson's OPA without political complexities if the Free Navy is treated as an external rogue power of the solar system. Both these things weaken Marco's position because the Inners are not forcing Belters and OPA factions into his side with rhetoric, political force, or flat-out violence. Assuming that they were to continue with this approach, of course. Every Belter probably wants a Belter hero in all of this. The point, though, is to make sure that Marco isn't turned into some romantic or legendary character, nor, and this is essential, a necessary evil for Belters. This is also why Holden's point to Fred isn't invalid, that right now the Belters have no hope for a future with the Ringgates. And so long as that continues, you are going to wind up with Belters siding with Marco simply out of desperation. As Amos put it, even if Earth was in a position to offer some form of basic, Belters wouldn't accept it. Their ancestors went out there to escape that kind of stagnation. Generations of breeding didn't produce a people more inclined to do as much drugs and have as much sex as possible before death. So circumstances have backed Belters into a corner. Marco is offering a way out. It would be a colossal mistake to make it seem like he's their only option. The last thing that you want to do is make people choose between surviving and thriving on one hand and some nebulous idea of what's right on the other. Because it's easy to have high ideals when your belly is full and your future has possibilities. It's much, much harder when you're not sure how you'll feed your loved ones, if there will be enough oxygen for the proper development of your children, if you don't know if you're already heading towards a dead end. These people are looking at what Marco did, and many of them do not approve of what he did. They see this as a man who is irredeemable, and yet they are trapped by circumstance. They listen to the cries out there, "Look at that villain," who promises that you won't go hungry. "Look at that monster," for slapping the face of those who think they're your betters. "Look at that criminal," who says your children will have an even better tomorrow than you. How could anyone possibly choose this awful man? By making sure they have no choice. To presume that your sense of right and wrong is all that is needed to make them do the right thing. What do you think is going to happen when there are only two choices, the irredeemable and the unacceptable, between a villain who will save you and a hero who won't lift a finger to help you? In a case where your entire future is on the line, you need to back the right horse, regardless of whether or not the rider is a madman who only thinks he's a knight in shining armor.